Showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
The absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
What is up, guys? This is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm J. Cal, and holy crap, what a week. 7 days ago, we were all a little bit more innocent, a little bit less inundated with the lives of the greater wrestling community. Man, I gotta be honest with you, I was kind of blown away with the Twitter, how do I put this, the call to action for all the people telling their stories, talking about their unfortunate. Sorry guys, I'm at a loss for words because this is such a serious topic matter, and I don't want to make light of it. I don't want to trivialize it. The fact of the matter is that there are people out there who've been hurt, and there are people out there who've been subject to being hurt, and in all these cases, I root for justice. I root for the guilty parties to serve their time, to be held accountable for their actions. And it's rough. It's been a rough couple of days. And I don't know, each and every single day, there's a new name who's been implicated, who's been put on this list of predators, sexual abusers, rapists. And it seems like all facets of professional wrestling have been implicated. And I really do want the guilty parties to suffer. I do. It should cost them careers. It should cost them their friends and their livelihood. But I also would like for innocence to prevail and justice to prevail. So, with that being said, I mean, the elephant in the room obviously is, our own National Wrestling Alliance was implicated with these allegations. And I'm not just talking about some members of the NWA, but former champions, we don't know to the extent of these allegations, so I don't want to speak to them with clarity, because I just don't know, and you guys don't know. We're just hearing the allegations. But Byron Wilcott, Joey Ryan, if the allegations are true, these men should be locked up. They should be put away. Other allegations with regards to our own NWA, our NWA Vice President, David Lagana. David Lagana has been very kind to JCal over the years. David Lagana has been very helpful in allowing me to have access to the National Wrestling Alliance, to allow me to have access to his wrestlers, to his people. David Lagana and I would say, had a friendship. And if the allegations are true, I don't know what to feel about that friendship. I know, and I apologize in advance for doing this, and I'm not going to go into total details. Sorry about that for the extra noise. But I know that there was some interesting. The allegations against David Lagana and his sexual misconduct were refuted by David Lagana. I know that Cage Side actually reported on this, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but essentially David Lagana refuted those charges, admitted to his friendship with his accuser, admitted to a living situation with his accuser. But it's really hard, guys. We're in a difficult situation because this is 2020 and so much stuff is coming out, and we need to be sensitive to the victims, because there are people who are victims, and if this situation, if the accuser for David Lagana is genuine and true, then he should be held accountable. But the scary thing, guys, is what if she's not? And I'm not trying to do the victim blaming, but there's so much he said, she said, and it's really hard to prove anything. I kind of went off the rails here. I did think of Dave Lagana as a friend, so I am hurt to see this happen to him. But again, if he is guilty of these crimes, then, I mean, he should face the consequences. Gosh, this isn't where I wanted to go today, so let's change the subject a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to go to some of your comments early. I do want to thank Mr. Dave Scooby for the new intro. I hope you guys enjoyed it. He just came out and said, "Hey man, I would like to do something for your podcast. How would you like a new audio clip?" And I said, "Heck yeah, man. I would love to see that." So let's see some of your comments. We're trying a new setup here, so you see some of the comments show up here on our YouTube screen, and which makes it kind of cool, but also very distracting, because I'm trying to keep up with what you guys are talking about. But so I'm glad to see a lot of great people are in here today. Wrestling with MMA, Willie Bowen, Will Martin. Thank you, Will, for being here. And Dave is here as well. This is the NWA's here. Kikuchi, Terry, Stan, Robert, Dr. Rob, the good Dr. Awesome. So I've been working on trying to produce the show, make it a little bit better. I hope you guys are enjoying it. You know, we don't need to have just that picture right there. We can just transition over here. I'm working with OBS. I'm teaching myself. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, so hopefully that this will get better. But to your comments, Will likes the song. Yeah, 65 beats for $12. Search it on Facebook. I highly recommend it. I do like the setup. I hope you guys appreciate it too. We got some fun stuff coming up soon. We're going to be doing some historical pieces. My partners DKM and Kevin Frazier, the former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. We're going to be doing a retrospective soon. We're also going to be having an interview with a young cat coming out of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, in Danny Limelight, who recently made his debut for the New Japan USA promotion. So we have some nice stuff coming out. Kikuchi says, "Who are you?" Well, I'm J-Cal. Terry McDermott says, "Hello, Terry. Welcome to the show." Terry helps run the NWA Unfiltered page on Facebook. I highly recommend you guys subscribing if you're like-minded, if you're fans of the National Wrestling Alliance. Definitely would suggest you join that group. Lately, they've been showing some of the older matches from the NWA. Definitely want to check that out. Willie says, "Man, you guys are writing so much, I can't keep up. Power and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood should show retro matches from past NWA wrestling." I agree, and I think they might be, and it's more about that in a few minutes. It's a shame that this list gets longer every day. Stan, I agree. It's awful. It's terrible. Robert Stinson says, "Well articulated, J. Cal." And yeah, the hat is pretty awesome. I do dig the hat. Wife did a good job on that one. Don't look at this, J. Cal. Oh, I see what you're doing. Hey Jay, where can you get that shirt? Well, this shirt, it's kind of hard to see because all the new layout and stuff, but this is the old retro. You can't get this one anymore. But the new one's available at Amazon, but Amazon is closed due to COVID-19 in terms of the merchant sales, so I might be looking for a new outlet. A good friend of the show, Kerouac, has been helping me design a logo for a retro logo for the next t-shirt, so that'll be pretty cool. But let's get back to more of the topics at hand. Oh, I don't want to forget, we're dual casting live on Instagram as well. So Instagram messages, and everybody who is now like, we should have known Joey Ryan was like that because he was famous for his penis wrestling. But that's not fair either, and I don't even like his shtick. Yeah, Kerouac, I feel the same way. Like, I was never a fan of... We're going to talk about Joey Ryan, the wrestler, for a minute. Let me do this. Because I've known Joey Ryan for a long time. Probably longer than most of you guys. I remember watching Joey Ryan compete at UPW in his early days, teaming with Scott Lost and also teaming with Funky Billy Kim as the X Foundation. Joey Ryan, his maturation to where he was, to where he is now, is almost like a completely different person. Even when he won the NWA World Title, he boasted about the sleaziness, but it was never to the shtick that it got to today, to where it is now. And these sexual allegations. I read one report where he had mentioned something that he felt more entitled because of his fame and his notoriety, and I don't think that stands up in court. And again, I'm very disappointed by Joey Ryan. Like I said, I've known him for a long time. We're anything but friends, but always pulled for the guy. And I felt, I became more and more disenfranchised with his gimmick. Again, it's not children appropriate. To me, I've always said, like, wrestling is wrestling, and that Joey style of wrestling isn't for everyone, but he certainly had a market for it. Unfortunately, it wasn't as black and white as that, and that's really disappointing. And David Marquez said it best, that he was genuinely disgusted and disappointed by Joey Ryan and urged Joey to turn himself in. I don't even know if that's an option at this point. Retro Mania Wrestling, I hope that Kerouac also mentioned that. I know that's coming soon. Not soon enough, if you ask me. So other news in the NWA this week, we did see that the NWA former Crockett Cup competitors, NWA representatives, made their return to Impact. The War Kings, Crimson, and Jax Dane returned to Impact Wrestling this week, which is good for both of those guys. Good for Crimson, good for Jax Dane, but terribly unfortunate for the NWA if they end up losing these guys. I don't know if this was a one-off appearance or if this is something that is going to continue to if they sign contracts. But Jax Dane, quite honestly, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in professional wrestling. Crimson, very knowledgeable. If you guys were able to see his appearance on what's causing all this, I really think that it's too much chagrin to the NWA if they did lose out on these two men. But hopefully, for their sake, I hope they did get signed. I hope they're getting paid lots of money to wrestle. But I sure would like to see the War Kings in the NWA. My thoughts, as the question just popped on the screen, my thoughts on Ricky Stark's AEW debut were, well, exactly what we would hope for Ricky Starks. I mean, his first match into the company, he gets to face Cody Rhodes for the TNT title. I mean, even though Ricky Starks is no longer a member of the National Wrestling Alliance, a lot of us still are going to root for him in his new endeavors. And so to see him take on Cody Rhodes, and even though he was unsuccessful in winning the title, winning the match, he certainly was a statement that was made. And it was certainly, I don't know, I was really happy to see Ricky Starks in AEW. What did you guys think? Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought about it. So yeah, the War Kings show up on Impact, challenge the North for the tag titles. Obviously they didn't win them, but it would be nice to see what happens next with the War Kings again. I really wanted to see what they were going to do. Hopefully return to Crockett Cup, or a storied feud with Tim Storm and Jax Dane. I was hoping to see more from that. Wrestling with MMA says, I don't want to see Crimson leave the NWA. Jax Dane is a much needed monster for the NWA. Yeah, absolutely. I think Jax Dane could be one of these guys that actually challenges Nick Aldis for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And yeah, it is what it is, though, right? So moving on, can we take a moment of silence for the memory of Valerie Bosch? She was the widow of Paul Bosch. Paul Bosch, if you guys remember, well, let's take a moment of silence, please. So Valerie Bosch was the wife of Paul Bosch, the famous Houston promoter who has one of the most storied video libraries in professional wrestling today. A lot of people don't know that that library had been the talks of being acquired by the WWE, being acquired by the sorry, lost my train of thought. The video library that Paul Bosch had was actually much talked about. At one point, the former ownership of the National Wrestling Alliance attempted to sell the library outright to the WWE. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for the Bosch family and Valerie and their son Joey. Joey has extra needs, and I know that Valerie was promised enough money to take care of Joey, but the demand just wasn't there from the WWE. When the NWA was purchased, Billy Corgan negotiated some of those rights. We don't exactly know how much or what kind of control they have of the library. We did see a full episode from the Paul Bosch library on an episode during the NWA Power time slot that is currently not featuring anything. So the question must be asked, what's going to happen to that Paul Bosch library now that Valerie is gone and Joey, this is pretty much what he has left. it's a sad situation because, of course, Joey's now without parents. But Valerie was, she was in her 90s. She lived a long, fruitful life. It's sad to think of what's going to happen with Joey, but hopefully, not Joey Ryan, but Joey Bosch. Hopefully, something can be worked out, whether it be the WWE, whether it be Billy Corgan and the National Wrestling Alliance, to somehow procure that library to put money in Joey's pocket to make sure that he's taken care of. But again, it's kind of a sad day, but also it might bring some clarity as to what will happen with that library, and hopefully we'll see things change. During the time that the previous ownership was in charge of the NWA, they started to digitize the content that was on those tapes, and many of those matches actually were part of the NWA Classics streaming channel. I don't know how much, I don't know the legalities of what the ownership had and had not, and what they were able to do and what they weren't able to do, but clearly that library was removed when the Lightning One purchased the NWA from International Wrestling Organization. So what happens next is kind of anyone's guess. Knowing that the NWA is in need of content, and who knows how long that this restructuring, reorganization will last. Who knows how long COVID-19 will affect live attendance for wrestling events. Again, at last week's show, we highlighted that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood was open for business, and I hope that we'll see a true return to form of maybe some of the NWA champions defending the titles in Hollywood as part of that cross-promotional Championship Wrestling from Hollywood NWA agreement that they hadn't passed. So more of your comments, because I love your comments, and because, well, this has been such a sad week of wrestling, and I'm really glad to be here with you guys to talk wrestling. Man, it feels good to be talking to my friends, and you guys don't know how much I appreciate you being here, because it's been a rough week. And I mean, people I know who've left the industry have been messaging me, hey, did you hear about Joey? Did you hear about this guy? Did you hear about that guy? And it's been tough, man. I know you guys probably get the same questions too. Wow, is that really happening? Yeah, it is, and it's awful. Willie said, I just made him a fan of the Angels. Thanks, Willie. I mean, look, they've got Mike Trout, the best player in baseball. If you love baseball, you should cheer for the Angels, because Mike Trout is really something phenomenal. I don't want Crimson to leave the NWA, and Jack Stain is a much... Oh, we already got to that one. Kikuchi says, I never believed in having a market for something that justifies its existing. Case in point, Jeffrey Epstein had a market for his services, but it was an enterprise that should have not existed. Same with the Joey Ryan stick. I mean, how do you approach that? How can you respond to that? Clearly, one of those things is different than the other, but both of them were perpetrated by two horrible human beings. So where do you go from there? I always say, in my heart, I'm very much a capitalist. As liberal as I am, I do believe that you should allow the market to dictate to the market. If somebody wants to watch hardcore deathmatch wrestling, I won't stop them. If someone wants to watch, lucha libre, I'm not going to stop them. If somebody wants to watch, mat classics, technical wrestling, who am I to stop them? I don't believe what Joey Ryan did in the ring was any indication of what Joey Ryan was doing outside of the ring, and I think the comparisons to that are a bit insulting. Does anyone believe that The Undertaker was embalming his victims when he got home? No. I mean, I hope not. I think that's a reach. Did Joey Ryan do some despicable, disgusting things? 100%. There's been similar gimmicks to Joey Ryan. Like Orange Cassidy is a silly gimmick. It's silly. It's nonsensical. But I don't think he goes home and well, I mean, it's not the same. Terry McDermott said Paul had a mega event long before WrestleMania. Yeah, Paul did. And Paul I got so excited I stuttered there. Paul was such a forward-thinking professional wrestler that, promoter, that he had the first match with Harley Race and Andre the Giant, and that was actually the first time that Andre the Giant had been body slammed on video. It was recorded. Before that, it didn't exist on video. Maybe the NWA and Billy can work on a licensing agreement. I mean, I think that would be beneficial to all parties involved. Maybe a deal where they, I don't know if I can even speculate on that, but if the NWA were to license that library from the Paul Bosch estate, and somehow Joey were able to benefit, Joey Bosch, I want to keep indicating that I'm talking about Joey Bosch, if he were to benefit from that licensing agreement, and then maybe, at some point the NWA has a right to purchase it outright, or when the time comes, if something were to happen to Joey, that the NWA would be able to assume control of that library. Willie Bowen says, I pray that Billy Corgan would get all of the Paul Bosch Houston library. I hope so too. I'd much rather see the NWA with it than the WWE, and I know that the WWE has done a wonderful job of presenting a lot of the classic WCW shows from the past. A lot of the Jim Crockett promotions. Really, I think you have to tip your hat to what McMahon has done with those libraries, because he's really kind of highlighted how great the NWA is and was. Without those libraries, a lot of us, who have been fans of the NWA would never see those matches again. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. Well, I don't live in Los Angeles, but I live in Southern California near Los Angeles, and the big wrestling factory we had out here was the wrestling from the Grand Olympic Auditorium, and the Judo Gene LaBelle and Mike LaBelle and their family, they didn't keep the copies of that library. And what they do have, Judo Gene LaBelle said he'd rather be dead than have those libraries end up with Vince McMahon. So maybe Billy Corgan could do that. Wait, what? That's a great idea, Jay. Can someone hook up Judo Gene LaBelle and Billy Corgan? Because if there is anything from those Grand Olympic Auditorium shows, that library would be amazing to see again, with the likes of Chavo Guerrero, Sr., not Jr., Rowdy Roddy Piper, John Tolos, Freddie Blassie, Black Gorman, the Great Goliath. Oh my God, that's a wonderful idea, J. Cal. Somebody put me on the payroll. Oh wait, that's someone else's shtick, I'm sorry. More of your comments. Mike Trout is from New Jersey. Mike Trout is from New Jersey. In fact, he's from, I think, Millersville. Kikuchi says, I thought Killer Khan was the first to slam Andre on film in Japan. Kikuchi, you might be correct on that. I always believed that Paul Bosch's Houston Library was was the first time that Andre was slammed on, where he was slammed on TV. But I could be mistaken. Paul's nephew was part of the business. Not sure if he's still alive. Thank you, Terry. I don't know that either. And again, the market dictates what the market needs and wants. There's a supply and demand. Obviously, the NWA, I think, would like to own that content. If not own it outright, I'm sure they would like to license it. It really helps connect the past, present, and future of the NWA. So yeah, I'm sure that would be a good idea. Dr. Adam P. says, you are too nice to live in LA. You know what? I don't live in LA. I live about 2 hours out of LA with traffic. And thank you. I appreciate that. Wrestling with MMA said that would be epic. Willie Bowen says SoCal is awesome. Stan said, Stan agrees with me. Somebody called Billy. So I think you guys are with me on this one. Maybe I'm going to call David Marquez when we get done with this, if he takes my calls. Dave Scooby says, been watching the 70s and 80s Central States NWA, lots of Harley Race. Grew up in Kansas City, lots of good memories. Now, Harley Race, I mean, that dude brought so much to the table. We were talking, or the NWA was talking just over a week ago about, the the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling. And the thing that I always get hung up with, because we're talking about we're not talking about one professional wrestling company. We're talking about an organization of multiple wrestling promotions. And not only are we talking about multiple wrestling promotions, but we're talking from 1948 to 2020. And so much has changed in that 72 plus years. It's really hard to just kind of narrow it down to 4 guys. And honestly, the same case that you can make for Harley Race is the same case that you can make for Gerald Briscoe, is the same case that you can make for Dory Funk Jr. What I'm trying to make is these guys were torchbearers. They carry that title in a time where business was good. They were getting booked 340 days out of the year. Ric Flair was working multiple nights. Now, maybe Flair is the exception because he did bring a certain pizzazz to the NWA and certainly caught more eyeballs and brought more attention to the National Wrestling Alliance. And with all due respect to all those great men that have held the title, how much more did Harley Race bring to the table than Gerald Briscoe? How much more did Gene Kiniski bring than Dory Funk Jr.? You're basically arguing semantics. But if you look at the NWA, there's pivotal times where the NWA could have died. Well, first of all, it had to be born. And Lou Thesz was the man to really solidify the 10-pound, well, it wasn't 10 pounds of gold. It was the World's Heavyweight Championship. The reason why it says World's Heavyweight Championship is because there are World's titles associated with it. There was a World Heavyweight Championship in Los Angeles. There was the National Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Championship. And of course there was the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Those titles were folded into one belt that Lou Thesz unified. World's Heavyweight Champion. You can't have Mount Rushmore and not put Lou Thesz on that. Period. Did I say Gerald Briscoe? Oh man, I'm so sorry. We were talking about the junior heavyweight title last week, and Gerald's been stuck in my head ever since. You're right, DK. You guys are all right. I was saying Gerald. I totally meant Jack. I apologize. Please forgive me. With that being said, I think I make my point. Lou Thesz, you don't have an NWA without Lou Thesz. Well, you can't tell me that if it wasn't for Dan the Beast Severn, that you wouldn't have an NWA today. Dan the Beast Severn became champion after Shane Douglas threw the belt down. Chris Candido had a title but was basically neutered. He had maybe 2 title defenses while champion. If there are more, they weren't recorded. And did almost nothing as champion. Even in his home promotion, Smoky Mountain Wrestling with Jim Cornette, they didn't really make much to do about that NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, that 10 pounds of gold. It wasn't until that title became around the waist of Dan the Beast Severn that title really started to gain traction. Watching Dan Severn bring the 10 pounds of gold to the octagon to fight UFC matches, winning UFC titles, solidified that belt as a credible championship title. All the while, he's defending that title in New Jersey and Kentucky. He's wrestling in Japan. He's wrestling for Dennis Corluzzo. He's wrestling for Howard Brody. Then, on top of all of this, the WWE has this NWA invasion where the Crown Prince, Dan Severn, that's the reason why they wanted to bring the NWA in, is because they wanted Dan Severn in. Now, they showed him with the title a couple of times, but the title slowly kind of faded into the background. They kind of took the focus off that, shifted it just to Dan Severn. But members have said, Corluzzo, Howard Brody, man, I'm drawing blanks now. Membership grew infinitely because of that. Not infinitely, of course, but the NWA was on its last legs. Without Dan Severn, membership ceases to exist, and they just kind of fade to obscurity. Chris Candido, it kind of fades away. I mean, he gets a call from WWE. How much longer is he around? You know what I mean? It's the NWA was kind of coming to nothing. So, right there, 2 guys that you have to put on Mount Rushmore are those two guys. I'm just peeking at your comments. Now you have two guys. Now, and I know Len says, well, Ric Flair. It has to be Ric Flair. Ric Flair did for the NWA what Hulk Hogan did for the WWE. So, okay, the point is, maybe Ric Flair was a great World's Heavyweight Champion. And if you guys want me to eat crow on that, I will. There's no doubt about it that Ric Flair did bring notoriety to the NWA. Man, half of the stars of hip-hop wouldn't be who they are without Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen. So I can see the point that you guys are making. So put Ric Flair on that. So now you got Luthez, Ric Flair, Dan Severn, and who else? Well, I've heard people call it the wilderness days. I've heard people call it the times of the unknown. But, you know, Nick Aldis wouldn't be wearing the 10 pounds of gold if that continuity of that title didn't continue. You guys do remember TNA started to refer to that belt as the TNA Heavyweight Championship. They dropped all association with the National Wrestling Alliance. They never referred to it as the NWA World Title. They didn't get clearance from the board of directors on who the champion could be. The champions that were being crowned champion had an asking rate way too high for most NWA members to book the title. So the NWA decided to break off from TNA. And who was the first champion? Well, it was supposed to be Daniel Bryan, but it wasn't. It was Scrap Iron, Adam Pearce. Can you guys see the picture over here? No, you can't. All right, I'm not really supposed to have this, but I'll show you guys anyways. Oh, upside down. Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce. If the NWA doesn't have Adam Pearce, and I know what people are going to say, well, he was a nobody. Right. He was a nobody, but he brought that title to Ring of Honor. He brought that title to Germany, to Mexico, to the UK, to Australia. He was doing things that nobody else could do at that time. And keep in mind, he didn't have Impact Wrestling behind him. He didn't have Lightning One behind him. It was himself and his own hustle that got the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in all these places. Guys, if you can't say that Adam Pearce belongs on Mount Rushmore, I don't know what to tell you. All right, let me get to some more of your comments. Maybe that's Jake Hal's Mount Rushmore, maybe it's not, I don't know. Like I said, it's really hard because everything I said about these guys, I mean, you can make the case that Harley Race, if Harley Race doesn't win the title, maybe there isn't an NWA. Maybe if Jeff Jarrett doesn't bring the NWA to TNA, maybe there is no belt for Adam Pearce to win. So, I mean, I hear what you're all thinking, and like I said, I don't think you can narrow it down to four wrestlers. But some more of your comments. Yes, Jack Briscoe, I'm so sorry. Len says, I did say that. Len says Flair did what Hogan did for the WWE. He came in, he gets beat down to draw heat on the challenger, and he comes back strong. That formula was what worked for a long time. This is the NWA says, hey, my picks were Thez, Dory, Race, Flair. And again, those aren't wrong. I just think that their Mount Rushmore for the NWA, it's got to be at least 8 people. And we're not even talking about the promoters who founded the NWA, or the people who kept the lights on, or the people who expanded the market. We haven't talked about anyone from New Japan. We haven't talked about anyone from 01. We haven't talked about anyone from Australia, from New Zealand. We're just talking about what's here in the United States. Dan Severn came off as unstoppable. I remember when you saw him on those WWE advertising to show up soon with all those belts, it was like, wow, exactly. And Len says the focus on the North American Championship with Jeff Jarrett was a bit too in the WWE. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Jeff Jarrett was certainly a pivotal role in that NWA invasion, but I firmly believe that the whole goal was to bring Dan Severn into the WWE. They were trying to get more of that legitimate competitors in the sport for them. Orville Brown says that, excuse me, Dr. Adam. We got 2. How do we have 2 doctors on this podcast, this live stream? Thank you, gentlemen, for watching. I appreciate that. Dr. Adam P. Spring, PhD, says Orville Brown was the first. You are correct, sir. You are absolutely correct. But Luthez was the man to unite those belts and to truly make them a world's championship. That was showing who he was big, yes. Stinson loved the Wilderness Days. You know what, and he's not wrong. Dr. Robert Stinson, the other doctor on this live stream, he's not wrong. He did certainly bring the Wilderness Days is a great indication of what was going on, because there weren't newspapers covering the NWA back then. There wasn't a lot of the dirt sheets weren't really covering the NWA because it wasn't big yet. It faded. It did fade in popularity. It did fade in prominence, but it never ceased to exist. Dory Funk Jr. Dory had the single longest streak for one reign. And again, you're making excellent points, Len. Can't argue with you. Wrestling with MMA says, any old regional feds you can recommend to watch on YouTube? I think I got a kick, and it's not real old school, but I got a kick out of watching Jim Crockett Jr. Promoting NWA Dallas. It started like in 1994, and a lot of those shows ended up on YouTube. And again, this is when people are like, well, the NWA died and WCW left. It's, no, Portland was still around. If you could check out Portland wrestling in the Pacific Northwest with Don Owen, or if you check out, again, Jim Crockett Jr. Dallas, he had guys like Greg the Hammer Valentine, and their wrestling continued. Michael Hayes was in there, so it was still going on. Dr. Adams says high class programming. Yeah, right. J Cal has 2 doctors on his show because he has a highbrow form of entertainment. Wrestling is higher, as Stinson says. Absolutely. And then Dr. Adams says, I was saying he should be on Rushmore as first. So, wow, guys, that's 45 minutes. Are you kidding me? I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up today to be a part of this live stream. The community is more important now, more than ever before. A lot of people are worried about what's next for the NWA, and I really want to preach this sentiment. The NWA has existed for 72 years. This isn't the first bit of controversy that's faced the NWA. This isn't the first time that the NWA has had a negative light shined on it. You have to remember, the NWA was accused of, what's the term, having a monopoly. They were accused of blackballing talent early in the 1950s, in the early days of TV wrestling. The NWA survived that. The NWA survived insurance fraud. The NWA survived lawsuits. The NWA survived all of these things. Titles being thrown to the ground, backstabs, double crosses. The NWA still survived. So I implore you guys to not give up yet. Do not throw everything down and say it's all done, it's all over. When the NWA comes back, it might look differently. NWA power might not be a thing. Maybe it will be exactly the same thing. Maybe it will be somebody else's vision. But ultimately, the 10 pounds of gold is still the longest, most consecutively defended title. And even through a pandemic, Nick Aldis still has defenses this year, and if he doesn't wrestle again next year, at least he has one defense in 2020. The 10 pounds of gold has not ceased to exist. I think we're calling it the Burke. The Burke still exists, and who knows with what Thunder Rosa's doing in her all-female promotion, maybe that title will get some run here real soon, associated with her promotion. You guys can check that out. Mission Pro WRES. You guys should check that out. Hopefully she'll come on here and we could talk some wrestling real soon. I see some more comments, so I want to get to them. We don't have to rush off here today, guys. I don't know what's happening at 3 o'clock, excuse me, at 6 o'clock, 6:05 on YouTube. If you guys are still looking for more content to consume, there is Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is putting all of their shows up on their YouTube channel, United Wrestling Network. And they do variations of their show for specific markets, including there's LA, which is the national broadcast. They also have a market specific for Memphis, a market specific for Houston, a market specific for Amarillo, and a market specific for San Francisco. It's basically the same show but with different hosts, different commercials. But if you're looking for some sort of wrestling, they just had Ricky Starks challenge Eric Watts for the United Wrestling Network Television Championship. I recommend checking that out. Buddha and Chono are two of my favorites, but cannot say they will be on Mount Rushmore. Exactly, but I mean, what about Hashimoto? You're gonna make me go to my wrestling. Hashimoto, they brought Hashimoto in to Hashimoto took the title from Steve Corino. And Corino, who took the title off of, I want to say, the British wrestler. I'm not entirely sure. Now my memory's getting fuzzy, but there was very palpable excitement when Hashimoto won the title. Hashimoto was one of the Three Musketeers. Hashimoto was a former IWGP Heavyweight Champion. And Hashimoto really presented the NWA World title as something bigger than what it really was at the time. So when he held the 10 pounds of gold, and again, perception is reality. When you have a guy who has a stature of Hashimoto wearing the 10 pounds of gold, it means something. When he won the title, he came out to the United States. He defended that title. I believe that was in NWA East, which I think is in Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania. I mean, he defended the title there. He came to Southern California and teased a potential match with Samoa Joe, and I think a lot of those plans changed because of the deal with Impact. And had Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett had come to an agreement with the NWA, I really think you would have seen more Hashimoto with that title, and more Hashimoto wrestling in promotions like QPW out here in Los Angeles, but wrestling across the U.S., maybe Florida Championship Wrestling, or I think that's Joe Price's NWA Florida, of course Howard Brody. There's so many places that title could have went, but once the Impact deal was signed, I don't think there was any opportunity for that. Hey, it's Mayor. Don't forget about Continental Wrestling, Southeast Wrestling. Every major star from the 80s and 90s has been through there. It's a good recommendation. Willie Bowen recommends Shinya Hashimoto, Barry Windham, and okay. Yeah, and like I said, and Windham, Windham won that title after Flair had left the company, and took that title and defended it in Japan. And the continuity of the title didn't stop because they were able to take that title, take it to Japan, and although it wasn't the 10 pounds of gold, it was big gold, the big gold belt. The NWA still thrived because the title was still being defended in prominent places on the card in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Michael Manning said he's still speechless. Michael, we all are, man. We're all still dealing with this. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, it seems to me that David Lagana is going to try to fight this. And all I want, honestly, guys, is justice. I want justice to prevail. And I don't know what that looks like. Hopefully it will. Okay, don't bring up Mike Rapata on this podcast ever again. Just kidding. Mike Rapata. Both Len and Willie Bowen both brought up Mike Rapata. I don't know what to say about Mike Rapata, so we'll just leave it at that. I think Len said his title reign was too short to really get a feel for it, and I'm not sure if he's talking about Hashimoto or if he's talking about Mike Rapata. Len also says 84 days did not help. I think, again, he's talking about Hashimoto. Terry McDermott says the NWA's Mount Rushmore is about 400 faces. Yeah, and okay, so think of it this way, too, right? The NWA, I think Dave Marquez, for what he did for the NWA, after they left TNA, he had the World Heavyweight title defended in small arenas. That should get some recognition. Again, Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett, for bringing the title from basically obscurity. It was being defended in Japan with Hashimoto. It was being defended in smaller promotions in the United States, but he put it on pay-per-view. He brought the title back to a weekly audience that could see it on TV. Okay. Carino beat Mike Rapata. Thank you, Len. I appreciate that. But the point I'm trying to make is, at least going back to Mount Rushmore, what about the people behind the scenes that made this happen? Well, the bookers, the promoters. We haven't even mentioned tag team wrestling. I know that I think that's going to do it for us. If we get back up here, I think we are. It is 254, 554, wherever you are, 54. I do appreciate you guys checking us out. Blown away by your support, guys. Blown away by you guys joining the show today and being an active part. I do recommend that if you are itching for more NWA content, there is a lot of guys out there that are doing it, but none are doing it better than my friends at This Is the NWA podcast. Gary Horn, Will Martin, Dr. Robert Stinson. They put on a great podcast. It's very interactive. It's very fun. Sometimes I pop on there from time to time. If you guys are looking for something to do, please join them. Follow them on Twitter and on Facebook. Go subscribe to their channel because, again, they put on really good content. And I would hate for anyone to miss that stuff when, I mean, it's really good content. They're really good guys. Also, just as a reminder, you can follow us on all social media at TheAllianceBlog. We made it easy for you. It's just at TheAllianceBlog. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. We will be doing more live streams coming up soon on Twitch. Of course, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. Also, we do live streams on Instagram, which we're doing right now. Thanks, guys. Oh, I don't want to ignore you guys either. Real quick. Did you watch the history of the heavyweight championship by the WWE in 2000-2006? The NWA is heavily discussed in that documentary. No, I need to jump on that. Hope you're good, man. Difficult topics with the NWA and wrestling right now. Absolutely. And you guys, if you want to know what's going on with the NWA and with United Wrestling Network, check out my friend CWFH News on Twitter and on Instagram. Our friend Lem, he does a great job of covering the NWA and the United Wrestling Network. And again, I think you guys should be watching United Wrestling Network while waiting for more content. I'm exhausted. You guys are awesome. I do want to thank you again for checking it out. We'll be here next week, 5:05 Eastern, 2:05 Pacific. Also, we'll be coming out with the, like I said, interview with the Danny Limelight, the up-and-comer from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And we're going to be producing more content related to the past, the rich history of the National Wrestling Alliance. We hope you'll tune in for that. And gosh, I'm just overblown by the support you guys have shown today. Read Gary Hart's book. I'm supposed to read Gary Hart's book too. Les recommends that. Man. Blown away by your guys' kindness, and again, thank you for checking it out. Please hit subscribe and throw up a like button if you enjoyed what you saw today. And as always, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it, and we're going to see you guys at the matches. Y'all have a good night.